What is happening in 2025, followed by the main feature. It is going to be, I think, one of the most epic years of my entire career. And the reason for that is, well, no longer chasing this endless, unreachable, unobtainable YouTube algorithm, which means I have to produce videos that are popular. I don't want to be popular. I'm not interested in being popular. I'm interested in creating content that inspires a very small number of people. I only need a small number of people. So that is all about the ASPWexperience.com. I'm replacing Patreon. And that's with the ASPW Experience, my private community. One thing Patreon is terrible at is interaction between me and my fans. It's just the occasional comment or message, but it is weak. That's a big thing. Go and check that out. The other part about it is public, for public consumption, of course, there's the High Ace van, which is, I don't know when this video will go out, but I'm on my edit bench right now. I've got a video, which is the work we've been doing on the van, and we've been working on it actually all year. But only now is it actually coming together. Troop carrier. It's lovely. I love it. I love camping out of this thing, but I want it better. So I'm going to do another upgrade to the suspension. I'm doing an upgrade to the electrical system, and I'm also going to do an upgrade to the wrap, because I get so much glare from the bonnet. It's really bad. I'm going to do something about that. I will be weighing it as well. Somebody commented saying, well, you know, have you done a GVM upgrade? And everybody's still talking about GVM upgrades and troop carriers. This new 2.8 does not need a GVM upgrade. And I believe, if you are in a situation where you need a GVM upgrade, then you've gone too far, and the performance of the vehicle will be degraded to a point where it actually won't perform very well. Use lots and lots of fuel. Off-road, it's already top-heavy. It could be more top-heavy, and it's just not necessary as far as I'm concerned. But I might get a shock, because I weighed it when I bought it, and I've done no weighing in between. And now I know I've had about 250 extra kilograms to work with compared to my old V8. Have I used up all of those too? Because the V8 was marginal. It was under. I didn't need a GVM, but it was marginal. Full of fuel for 2 people on a long trip. It was at that 3.33 thousand kilograms. My gut is that this is 3,333 kilograms full. I think it's the same weight as the V8, but I've got the 200 plus kilograms to work with. As for trips in Australia, we still haven't made up our minds, but our plan is for July and August, giving us enough time to complete the High Ace build. We will take both the High Ace and the troop carrier on a major Australian outback expedition, and we're thinking and hoping Arnhem Land. Arnhem Land is up here. Never been there before, but it's very, very far from here. It'll take me to get up there 5 days of driving, and then 5 days, so that's 10 days just to get there and get home again. But there will be a big trip in Australia with the High Ace and the Troopy. As you know, I have 2 channels. I hope you know already. The other channel, ASPW Experience, is my travel and expedition work, and this 4X Overland is my regular 4-wheel drive content, builds, technical, etc. So the van build will be on this channel. When I go to Africa to drive my Africa troop carrier, which is at this moment having an engine transplant done from the 1HZ 4.2 normally aspirated motor to the turbocharged 4.2 multi-valve FTE Toyota motor. That is happening now. That content, that the engineering, the technical side, will be on this channel. When I climb in it, close that door and head off through a solo trip through Botswana, and then meeting up with my family in Zimbabwe, that will not be on this channel. That will be on ASPW Experience channel. The link is in the description. And when I shoot that show, I will do one main show for the entire trip, but if you want the full set of episodes, there's probably going to be 6, 10, I don't know, episodes. If you want that, you're going to have to go to aspwexperience.com, my private community. Now, as I promised, what do I prefer? The 2.8 or the V8? Or the Africa FTE, which I haven't driven yet? The V8 compared to the 2.8. They're very different vehicles. Never have I driven a Troopy that has been as refined as this. As smooth to drive, less vibration, less noise vibration, easy to drive in traffic. On the open road, the cruise control works a little better, although not a lot of better than the, I'll get to it later, than the V8. It's a more modern vehicle, but it lacks something. Late 2023, I took delivery of this, my 5th troop carrier. The first I owned was a 4.2 1HZ manual in South Africa. That was a 2011 model. Next, 2017, a 4.5 V8 bought in Australia. In 2021, another V8 in Australia. In 2023, another 1HZ 4.2, this one with 500,000 kilometers on it, based in South Africa. The Troopy never ever fails to give me a warm fuzzy. And also in 23, this one, the 4-cylinder 2.8 with the auto gearbox. Which one of these 5 is best? Driving a vehicle is not just about how fast it accelerates, how quickly it brakes, how it goes into the corners, how it comes out of the corners, how it handles the load, how it handles... I mean, it's not just about that. Those things, of course, are important. But it's about how it feels. V8s, and the reason why the world loves a V8 is there's something about the vibration of a V8 engine. It's... maybe it matches the... I could get into all kinds of existential thoughts about how it matches the human... whatever. I don't know why. I don't actually care why. The fact is that the V8 has a feeling about it. When you start the motor, the rumble, the vibration through the seats, everything about it. And then as you drive it and you accelerate hard, that sound, that vibration, the feeling, and the way it makes you feel. Cars are about how they make you feel as much as anything else. So now let's have a look at the 2.8 versus the V8 troop carrier and how it makes you feel. There is no comparison. You cannot compare the two. And as much as this is more refined, more comfortable, quieter, etc., 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 it does not make me feel what the V8 made me feel. Okay, let's get beyond that. So I will always prefer the V8. Let's talk about pure performance now. The 2.8 pulls very, very well. Better, definitely, than a standard V8. No question about it. But this vehicle, the 2.8, has a problem in that when you drive it, it's like it's being powered by a very efficient sewing machine. It feels like a sewing machine. It sounds like a sewing machine. It has the same vibration as a sewing machine. It's an appliance. The moment I got in it, the day I bought this car, I got in it and it felt like a van. That is, I'll get used to it, but visibility is not as good as the V8 out the front windscreen. It's not. It's much quieter. That's my first impression. It's a lot quieter than the V8. What is my fuel consumption going to be? There is a satisfaction in the V8 with the noise it makes, with the startup. This feels like a Hilux. It feels like a van. It's the same engine they put in the Hi-Ace. It's nothing special about it. You could say that about the 1HZ, the straight six, but that is. I'm going to have to sort that out. It keeps turning on the radio, and I turn off the radio and I make the volume 0, and it insists on turning the radio on every time I get in the car. You have a mental association with the 1HZ. I have with the Troop Carrier, in that it's very satisfying, that engine. There's nothing like it. It's just this really, really, I mean, it's as underpowered as they come, but it's just this beautifully reliable power plant that is going to get you there and get you home again. The V8 has a similar feel about it, that you get in it and you just, something about the V8 is just, it just had, it's a van, kind of van, but it felt like one. And I don't want a car that feels like a van. I want a four-wheel drive that feels like a four-wheel drive. And with this engine, first time I've ever driven a Troopy that feels like a van. It pulls very, very well. It accelerates very well. If I want to get away from the lights and leave the traffic behind, I squirt it. I can press the little power button on the dashboard, and it goes much better than the V8. Far better. But the moment you tweak the V8, and you do a ECU tweak, I used at the time the module map by Torquit. That was what I did. And suddenly now, with a throttle controller as well. So I spent a bit of money. By doing that, it threatened my warranty, the engine warranty. It threatens it. Okay. And suddenly now the V8 pulled brilliantly. Off the mark. It was, in wet weather, I had those mud tires on it. I had to be careful in wet weather. It would spin the back out. There were a couple of times where I could feel it. Okay, a little bit too aggressive on the accelerator, turning out of a intersection into a street or something like that. It had plenty of beans. And then getting past the trucks, I go down into fourth, squirt. Before I have passed that truck, I am exceeding the speed limit. And I'm not even trying. This will do the same in its standard form. It doesn't pull as fast as my Troopy in its tweaked form, but it pulls well. I'm saying this because this car also needs an ECU tweak, because it's got a 6-speed gearbox, and I don't know why they put a 6-speed gearbox in this car. This car has never been into 6th gear. At 110 kilometers an hour, down a slope, easing the accelerator, it does not go into 6th gear. It stays in 5th. And I have gone into the manual and tried to get it into 6th gear. It will not go into 6th gear. There's no point in having a 6-speed gearbox. However, I believe this to be true. An ECU tweak would get this to change into 6th gear at, say, 105 kilometers per hour. Imagine what that would do to the fuel consumption. The fuel consumption between this and the V8, this is better than the V8, by such a small margin that it's not big enough for it to really count anything. It's probably less in terms of range, and I'm talking about loaded vehicle on a trip. What is the actual consumption? I'm talking less than an additional 100 kilometers range. Less than. So it's nice to have. It's not a deal breaker. However, I believe it could be. Again, I believe if I tweak this, do that tweak, this could outperform the V8 in all areas, including overtaking trucks, including fuel consumption, range, etc. But it will never feel like the V8. The other part is the automatic gearbox. I prefer manual gearboxes, especially off-road. I prefer them because I've driven them. I've owned, of the 18 four-wheel drives that I've owned, actually the High Ace is number 19, I have 4 of them have been automatic gearboxes. And I prefer driving a manual because I think I'm better at it, because I've done it a lot more with a manual gearbox. I like that sensation of a double declutch. Driving my Range Rover, even my recent Range Rover, you know, you had to, if you wanted to do a fairly quick change, you know, from third into second, you double the clutch. And there's a certain level of satisfaction in getting that double the clutch just right, and the gears go clunk, and you feel them mesh, and it's quiet, but there's that vibration, and you feel the acceleration through your feet as you accelerate. You don't when you're driving in an appliance. This Troopy is an appliance, whereas the V8 Troopy is not an appliance. It's more than an appliance, as well as it performs. Toyota have now offer the 2.8 with a manual gearbox. So the question was, would you prefer the 2.8 with a manual or the automatic gearbox? And my answer is, I definitely would prefer the automatic gearbox, because if it's an appliance, make it the best appliance it can be. I don't think there would be very much advantage, pleasure, feel in this engine, sounds like sewing machine, with a manual gearbox. Would it be nicer to drive than an automatic? No. Off-road though, maybe, not definitely. The best combination for me is the tweaked V8 with a manual gearbox. So manual, the V8, the best V8 is the manual. The best 2.8 is the automatic, I believe. But there is another option that I'm about to explore, and that is my Africa Troop Carrier, which has the straight 6 1HZ non-turbocharged diesel engine, and it's a dog. I've got a 2.8 in my, I've ran a V8. I'm tired of an engine that just, you have to flog it to death. Even when it's good, you flog it to death to do even a mild truck overtake. And we're swapping out the engine because that dog engine is actually very, very tired, and we were about to put the FTE motor, which is a straight 6 4.2, but this is the multi-valve, and it has a turbocharger out of factory. This engine was put into Landcruiser VX Sahara, the top of the range 100 series, and it is a magnificent engine. I think one of Toyota's greatest ever engines, and I think it was also put in the 80 series, from the last period of 80 series production. I think a lot of Toyota fans would agree me. Comment if you do agree with me that the FTE is an exceptional engine. It has that low down grunt when you're driving off-road, and this is where the V8 is so much better than the 2.8. You're driving off-road, you don't want to hear the engine. You want it to be idling, because if it's idling, you have the best chance of zero wheel spin, and that just gives you better traction, better controllability, to be able to control and drive the engine at the lowest possible RPM. No engine I've ever driven does it better, and I have driven Landcruisers with the FTE. No engine does it better than the FTE. You get this massive amounts of torque instantly at low RPM, and it continues through the rev range. And it doesn't rev very high, but it doesn't need to. There's just massive amount of power at low RPM, which which is what you want. You want masses of power at low RPM. This 2.8 gives good amount of power, but at high RPM. So when driving it off-road, you have to take that in consideration, and it is not as good as an off-road power plant as the larger capacity V8s and straight sixes. I believe that my Africa troop carrier, when I have the FTE fitted, and I will be collecting that vehicle and doing a big trip in it. I hope you will join me. If you want to join me on that trip, it will be broadcast from June this year. I'm going in May, and those videos will be on my alternative channel. That's ASPW Experience. The technical side of that will be on this channel, but the actual trip itself on the other channel. There I will be able to give you even a clearer appreciation and feeling towards these different troop carriers and how different they are with these different engines and different gearboxes. The gearbox in the Africa Troopy is the same manual 5-speed that actually it was built into the petrol versions of the 105 Landcruiser. Incredibly strong gearbox. But I do not know at this moment if it has permanent four-wheel drive, full-time four-wheel drive, or part-time, because I don't know where the transfer gearbox comes from. So that is a big question mark for me. I am hoping so much it has the full-time four-wheel drive system, because if it does, that is the best of all worlds. A troop carrier with an FTE with a full-time four-wheel drive system. You will not get better, ever. Thank you so much for watching. I built this vehicle myself, did almost all of the work, including the wiring and the plumbing. I have used 3 Egon game-changing simplicity products in this build. I'm going to highlight one right now. It's called the Egon DC Hub. All my batteries, there are 1 in the dashboard, 2 at the back, go to 1 unit. I have 3 chargers, a solar, DC-DC, but 2 of them. And they go via the Egon DC Hub Dual. DC Hub is basically one place where everything is wired. If you're struggling to figure out the wiring of a build, the Egon DC Hub does all of the difficult stuff for you. It's like paint by numbers. You just run the cable to the place on the DC Hub according to in-depth instructions supplied with it and on the internet, and you simply wire it according to those instructions, and I guarantee you it will work first time, every time. Not only that, if you have a blown fuse, the little LED light comes on in the DC Hub, so fault diagnostic becomes an absolute breeze. Honestly, if you want to simplify your build, it's game-changing simplicity. The Egon DC Hub is a revolutionary product, and there is nothing like it, dare I say it, in the world.